They didn't strike her. That would have been too clean. Instead, they cut her hair in silence, letting the braids fall like discarded roots onto the packed earth. The strands were left there, at the center of the camp, beside the ashes of a fire that had burned out 2 nights before. No one stepped forward to sweep them away. Her name wasn't spoken. Not once. They had stripped it from her as if it were an old pelt, too worn to keep. She stood still, legs dusty, hands empty. One wrist still bore the faint mark of a rope, not tight enough to bruise, but firm enough to remind her she had once been held back, and now was being cast out. The elders faced away, their backs unmoving. Only the wind stirred their long gray hair. The younger ones didn't look at her at all. And the woman who had once fed her pinole and told her stories with her fingertips pressed against the sand, she was gone before dawn. She waited. No one told her to leave. But no one told her to stay. A basket was left near the edge of the sleeping circle, woven tight, dark from use. Inside, dried yucca root, a cloth bundle, and a single flint. No water. That was her farewell. She walked east, toward the mountains. Her feet knew the path before her heart did. The stones were sharp and scattered. Her soles bled before midday. But she didn't slow. She didn't cry. The sun moved without concern. Overhead, a hawk circled low. The sky held no clouds, no promise of shelter. Each breath brought the taste of dust and thorn. By nightfall, she had put 3 ridges between herself and the camp. Enough to not hear the drums if they played. Enough to forget the scent of cooked mesquite beans. She didn't build a fire. She lay down beneath a half-buried boulder, back pressed against the cold slope, watching stars arrive one by one. Her eyes didn't close. A coyote called out, long and high. Somewhere far off, another answered. The sound cut through the silence like bone splitting. She felt it in her chest. She thought of her sister, not the one who nursed her wounds when they fell from the cedar tree, not the one who used to steal cornbread for them to eat in secret. That sister no longer existed. What was left was the one who had watched her stand before the elders and said nothing. The second morning came without color. Gray light spread over the sand like a thin blanket. She rose, mouth dry, skin tight from windburn. The cloth bundle from her basket was still unopened. Her fingers hesitated at the knot. Inside, a bone comb, a worn piece of blue fabric that had once been part of her mother's dress, and a necklace strung with 7 dry berries. No letter, no marking, only these things. She folded the fabric back and placed it inside the basket. The comb she kept in her palm, fingers curled around it like a small weapon. A memory surfaced. Her mother pulling the comb through her hair, whispering a prayer for strength. But strength hadn't come. Only silence. Only exile. She turned south, unsure why. The horizon offered nothing but distance. But her legs moved, and that was enough. By the 3rd day, her body had forgotten the rhythm of the village. No call to rise, no woven mat beneath her, no shared bowl. The absence was complete. She found a dried-out stream bed and followed it for hours, kicking through brittle brush and jagged stones. The sun tracked her, relentless. In the afternoon, she passed a dead deer, ribs splayed, eyes gone. Flies rose in a soft storm when she stepped too close. She didn't flinch. The basket's weight grew heavier as its contents lightened. She chewed on yucca root until her jaw ached, drank from a crack in the rock where the water tasted of copper. Night returned without sound. She didn't dream. She only stared upward, as if the stars might burn a hole big enough for her to climb through. By the 4th morning, her steps faltered. Her left foot dragged slightly behind the right, A stone had torn through her soul the day before, but she hadn't stopped to clean the wound. The pain pulsed like a drumbeat beneath the skin. Her shoulders had begun to slope forward, pulled down by the absence of hope. And still, she walked. Each mile pushed the name they had taken deeper into the ground. Each breath scattered its memory farther. She didn't carry her name anymore. But its shadow followed. And somewhere ahead, beyond the pale ridge and the silence that wrapped itself around her like a second skin, something waited. Not a home, not forgiveness, but something else. The girl appeared like the desert itself. Not suddenly, but as if she had always been there, only now seen. She sat atop a flat boulder, knees drawn to her chest, arms wrapped loosely around them. Her hair was long, uneven, heavy with dust. Her skin carried the sun like a memory, weathered, coppered, cracked in places. She watched without blinking. No sound announced her presence. No birds took flight. Only the wind shifted direction, curling low along the canyon wall. The one with no name didn't stop. She walked past the rock, not looking up. The basket was slung over one shoulder now, hanging from a strip of cloth that bit into her skin. Her steps were uneven from the cut in her foot, but steady. "You're walking wrong," the girl said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. She slowed, didn't turn. "You're dragging your left foot," the girl said again, calm as smoke. "It leaves a trail even rabbits could follow." "They won't," the girl said. "They've already filled your place." The silence stretched. She turned then, not all the way, just enough to see the edge of the boulder from the corner of her eye. "You speak like someone who's been replaced before." "I have," the girl replied. "Twice." The sun dipped lower behind the ridge, casting long shadows that reached toward them like fingers. The girl slid off the rock. She was tall and thin, bones visible beneath the skin. She moved barefoot, the soles of her feet blackened and cracked. Around her neck, a length of leather cord held a pouch made from stitched rabbit hide. She walked to where the other girl stood, stopped a few steps away, and tilted her head slightly. "What's your name?" There was a pause. The wind stilled. "I don't have one anymore," came the reply. The girl nodded slowly. "Then take a new one." She said nothing. Her hand gripped the basket tighter. "I'm called Nada," the girl said, "because I had to become nothing before they stopped looking for me." Her expression didn't invite pity. It was a statement, not a plea. Nada gestured with her chin toward a clump of mesquite trees nestled in a dip between the hills. "There's water, not clean but enough, and I have dried meat." The one without a name hesitated. Hunger pressed behind her ribs. Her mouth had tasted only dust since the previous day, but she hesitated still. "You don't know me," she said. "I don't need to," Nada replied. "I know what it's like to be walked away from." They sat by a shallow pool, more mud than water. Flies hovered, but the girls ignored them. Nada handed over a strip of jerky. It was hard as bone, tasted of smoke and pepperweed. They chewed in silence, eyes on different patches of sky. Later, when the light died completely, Nada struck a match and lit a tiny fire hidden between stones. The flames barely rose. She fed them slowly with dry leaves and pieces of bark no longer than a finger. The fire gave no smoke. She watched the girl across from her. Not closely, just often enough to notice how she held herself, shoulders tense, eyes darting when silence lasted too long. The hand that never let go of the basket handle, even in rest. Nada pulled something from the pouch at her neck. A bundle, wrapped in oilskin, tied with sinew. She placed it gently between them. "What's that?" the girl asked. "A letter." "You read it?" "No." "Why?" Nada's gaze didn't waver. Because it was given before I was ready, and now I don't know if reading it would help or undo me. The girl stared at it. She reached out, slowly, not to touch it, just to be close. Who gave it to you? Nada didn't answer. Later, under the stars, the fire only embers now, they lay side by side but didn't face each other. I used to have a sister, the girl whispered. Nada didn't reply. She braided my hair every morning, even the day I left. Still, Nada said nothing. She didn't stop them. The words fell heavy, like stones dropped into dry wells. Nada's voice came only after several breaths. I bit my brother once, when he tried to give me away. Silence again. The stars above them pulsed, quiet and indifferent. The one without a name turned her head, just slightly. What did they call you before Nada? Nada closed her eyes. It doesn't matter, she said. And in the dark, that felt true. The path climbed without mercy. Loose rock gave way underfoot. Juniper roots split the trail in silent defiance. The air thinned, not enough to choke, but enough to make the heart work harder. Neither girl complained. Complaint required energy they didn't have. Their breath came short. Dust clung to their skin, mixing with sweat, turning their arms the color of rusted iron. They hadn't spoken since morning. Nada walked ahead. Her movements were efficient, deliberate. She carried nothing but the oilskin letter, now wrapped tight in the same cloth that once held her meat. No blade on her belt, but she didn't walk like someone unarmed. Behind her, the girl with no name adjusted the strap of the basket again and again, each shift digging it deeper into her shoulder. The leather had cracked. She had wrapped it in blue cloth from the bundle, tying it with strips torn from the hem of her dress. She limped. Her foot, torn days ago, had grown warm with infection. She hadn't said anything, but Nada had noticed the change in her gait. Still, she said nothing. They passed a cluster of white stones shaped like teeth rising from the ridge. Somewhere beneath them, bones of animals long gone. The place smelled faintly of pine and dry sage, a scent carried in pockets of wind. They stopped near midday, not to rest, but because the path disappeared. Nada crouched, running her fingers along the earth. Her fingertips brushed a smooth edge hidden beneath gravel. A trail, she said. Covered. On purpose. The girl stepped beside her. By who? Someone who wanted not to be followed. Nada stood, her face unreadable. They weren't good at it. They walked again, following the broken trail as it climbed into the folds of stone. The heat softened as the mountain cast longer shadows. The sun no longer punished, only watched. By dusk, they reached a narrow pass. On one side, a steep fall into canyon. On the other, a wall of sandstone scratched with old markings, circles, arrows, and handprints, faded with time but still clinging to the surface like ghosts. Nada touched one of the prints. Mescalero, she murmured. This was a warning. What kind? Keep moving. They didn't stop. The fire that night was tiny and blue. Nada built it inside a natural hollow, the flames sheltered by rock. The girl with no name sat with her legs stretched out, ankle wrapped in a strip of cloth torn from her underdress. The swelling had worsened. She pretended it hadn't. Nada boiled a small pot of water with crushed juniper berries and sage scraped from the edge of the trail. She poured the mixture into a flat stone and handed it over. Put your foot in, before it goes deeper. The girl obeyed. She winced but didn't make a sound. Nada sat beside her, close enough to feel the heat of her body. Neither spoke. The stars above them blinked, scattered and sharp. Somewhere in the dark, a bird cried once and fell silent. After a long pause, Nada spoke. Not to comfort, not to open wounds, just to place something between them. My mother bled out in a hollow just like this, after I was born. The other girl turned slightly. She was alone? No. My brother was with her. He was 6. Said her eyes looked like stone at the end. Not sad, just heavy. She was quiet a moment. He blamed me. Said I broke her on the way out. The fire popped softly. A bit of ash lifted, then fell between them. What happened to him? The girl asked. He sold me. To a trader who wanted someone small and fast to cook and carry wood. He said it was what I owed. There was no anger in her voice. Only a flatness, like wind passing over a grave no one visits anymore. Later that night, the girl with no name woke from shallow sleep. The pain in her foot had dulled, but the ache in her chest had not. Nada was sitting up, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes fixed on the horizon. The stars are turning, she said quietly, without looking. Do they mean something? They always do, even when we forget how to read them. A long silence. The girl shifted closer. My sister's name was Naha. Nada glanced sideways, saying nothing. She told them I had broken the boundary, that I had met with a man from the army, that I'd smiled at him. Nada didn't move. I didn't touch him. I didn't say anything. I only didn't look away. The shame hung there between them, dry and sharp as a thorn. Nada looked back to the stars. She didn't betray you. She protected herself. From what? From being you. The girl lowered her eyes. The fire had gone out. Only the embers remained, faint, red, breathing like something still alive. They lay down again, closer this time. Neither touched the other, but the distance between them was smaller than before. The canyon narrowed as they descended. The rock underfoot turned pale, layered like old skin. Shrubs clung to the edges of stone, stubborn in their thirst. A vulture passed overhead, wings wide, silent. Nada moved ahead, scanning the path. Her shoulders tense, like something in her had learned never to trust stillness. The girl limped behind, foot wrapped in clean cloth soaked in sage and ash from the night before. The swelling had eased, but each step still whispered pain. By late morning they saw smoke, thin, rising straight into the sky from the trees near a dried riverbed. Nada stopped. She crouched, pressing her palm to the earth. "Fresh prints," she whispered. 2 horses. 1 rider walked. The girl with no name came closer. Her breath slowed. She had learned by now. When Nada whispered, it mattered. They moved quietly, keeping low behind rocks and brush. Near a bend in the trail, they saw it. A fire still burning, small and careless. One man lay beside it, arm across his chest, boots off. His face was too pale for the heat. His shirt was soaked dark around the belly. The second man was gone. Nada stood slowly. "He's dying," she said. Not cold, not cruel, just honest. The girl didn't move. They waited. The man stirred once, tried to lift his head. Failed. Nada stepped forward. He didn't lift a weapon. He didn't have one. When she reached him, she knelt, then pulled back the shirt with 2 fingers. The wound was already blackening. A bullet hole, low and left. He wouldn't last another hour. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. Nada leaned close. She listened. Then she stood. "We leave him." The girl stared. "He's still breathing." "He won't be for long." They searched the site quickly. A small sack with beans, 2 flints and a cracked mirror, 1 rifle, unloaded, useless, and 1 horse, tied loosely to a dry-rooted mesquite, chewing at nothing. They took it. The trail opened wider as they moved northward. The girl now riding, holding the basket against her chest, the smell of the dead man's sweat still clinging to the reins. Nada walked beside the horse, quiet. They didn't speak again until the sun bent low over the cliffs. "He said your name," Nada said finally. The girl blinked. "I didn't tell him," Nada added. "He just said it. Once." She looked down. "What name?" "Naha." The word hit like a stone in the chest. "Maybe he was delirious," Nada continued. "Or maybe he knew her." Silence. Then the girl spoke, soft. "She sent him." Nada looked up. "She sent him to make sure I didn't come back." The horse snorted. The wind shifted. "I thought it was the elders, but it was her. I see it now." Nada said nothing. They walked on. That night, they stopped near an outcrop of red stone that curved like a question mark against the sky. They built no fire. The horse was tied to a pinyon tree, chewing dry grass. It made no sound. Nada handed the girl a shirt, coarse, long-sleeved, the cuffs stained. The dead man's. "It fits," she said simply. The girl ran her fingers over the fabric, then slowly pulled it over her head. It fell loose around her shoulders. Too wide, but warm. She didn't speak. Nada sat near, hands resting on her knees. After a while, she pulled the oilskin bundle from inside her own shirt. The letter, still unopened. The moonlight was soft. The paper glowed faintly. "Do you want to read it?" the girl asked. "No," Nada answered. "But I don't want to burn it either." "Why not?" "Because once it's gone, I won't have anything left to not read." They sat in the hush. The air was cool, the earth still radiating the day's heat. Coyotes howled far off. The wind carried no threat. The girl looked at Nada's hands. Scars ran across the knuckles. Small ones, like burns or old rope burns. Lines that said she had lived places where others didn't. "You killed someone before," she said quietly. Nada didn't flinch. "Yes." "Was it for survival?" "No." Silence. "Was it for revenge?" Nada looked down. "It was for nothing," she said. "And that's why it still hurts." Later, they lay under the sky, not speaking. The horse shifted in its sleep. The girl's hands clutched the shirt, and in the darkness, she whispered, not for the wind, not for the stars, but for herself. "She was supposed to protect me." Nada didn't answer, but her hand moved, just slightly, rested near, not touching, but near. They reached the basin at dusk. The mountain dropped away behind them, and the sky opened wide, painted with the faint rose of a sun too tired to shine. Below, a village. Stone walls low and cracked. Wooden fences leaning. Chickens scratching near doorways. Smoke rose from chimneys in thin, uneven ribbons. The horse snorted once, and Nada tightened the reins. She didn't slow. The girl rode with her shoulders tense, hair caught in the collar of the dead man's shirt. Her fingers rested on the rim of the basket, the one thing she had never abandoned. They entered the village like ghosts. No one looked twice. The people here were used to dust-covered women with silence in their eyes. Hunger did not make strangers strange. A boy with bare feet and a swollen cheek offered them water from a clay jug. Nada nodded once. The girl drank. They left behind a sliver of flint in return. No one asked their names. No one asked their story. The trader sat beneath a faded cloth awning, carving notches into bone. His hands were steady. His face was pale, but his eyes sharp. He watched them approach and said nothing. Nada tied the horse to a post, walked up, set her palm flat on the table. "One horse," she said. "Strong. Fed." The man didn't blink. "How'd you come by it?" "We didn't come to tell stories." He smirked, slow. Not cruel, just tired. He weighed them both with his eyes. 3 blankets, 2 sacks of maize, and a flask. Nada tilted her head, plus a spool of blue thread. He paused. "Fine, but no flask." She nodded. The trade was made. They left the village without looking back. Each carried a bundle now, maize wrapped in canvas, a blanket tucked under one arm, the blue thread coiled like something delicate in the girl's hand. They walked until the lights behind them vanished. By night, they found a hollow between 2 slopes, the earth soft with old pine needles. A small ledge of rock above them offered shelter. Nada built a fire, low and clean. The wood burned slow. The maize boiled in water until it thickened. They ate in silence, smoke curling upward like something ashamed of itself. Afterward, Nada held the spool of thread between her fingers. "You know how to sew?" she asked. The girl nodded. "My mother taught me. Said hands that make are stronger than mouths that curse." Nada smiled, the kind that barely touched her lips. She was right. She handed over the spool. The girl stared at it, then pulled the shirt from her shoulders, folded it gently on her lap, and began to mend a tear near the cuff. Her fingers worked slow but sure. The blue thread cut across the worn fabric like a river across old land. Nada watched, not speaking. Then slowly she reached into her pouch, pulled out the oilskin letter. She set it on the ground between them. "Read it," she said. The girl looked up. "Are you sure?" "No. But do it anyway." The paper was stiff, yellowed, edges curled from heat and time. The girl unfolded it carefully, holding her breath. She read in silence. Nada watched her face, not the words. When the girl reached the end, she lowered the letter gently. "She was afraid," she said. "Your mother." "I know. She didn't leave you. She couldn't stay." Nada's throat worked as she swallowed. "She wanted to come back," the girl continued. "But by the time she could, she thought you wouldn't want her anymore." Nada said nothing. Her hands were still, her eyes fixed on the fire. "She called you Eseni," the girl said softly. "Means breath between storms." Nada closed her eyes. The silence held. Then, after long minutes, she opened them again. "I don't know if I forgive her." "You don't have to." The fire cracked once. A wind shifted outside the hollow, brushing the stones like fingers. They sat shoulder to shoulder now, still not touching, but breathing the same air, carrying the same weight. That night, they didn't sleep apart. 2 bodies beneath one blanket, one fire, no words. But when the girl closed her eyes, she saw her sister's face, not the one who had stood silent before the elders, but the one who had braided her hair and whispered stories into her ear when the world still felt whole. She did not hate her, not entirely. She might one day even say her name again without bleeding. They left before the fire died. The sky was still dark, but no longer black, the kind of pre-dawn that breathes more than it shines. The path before them was narrow, winding through hills too quiet to be trusted, too soft to be feared. The ground was cool, damp in places from dew they hadn't felt fall. Neither girl spoke. The blanket had been folded with care, the thread wrapped and tied. The shirt, mended, worn, familiar, now hugged the girl's shoulders like something no longer borrowed. Nada, Eseni, walked slightly ahead, not watching the trail, but trusting it. Behind her, the girl with no name carried the basket in one hand, lighter now. Not because it held less, but because it held only what mattered: the blue cloth, the bone comb, the berries on a thread. The rest had been left behind. By mid-morning, they reached the plain. The sky opened above them, blue bleeding slowly into gold. The wind picked up, gentle, full of dust and something softer, like the breath of trees unseen, far off, waiting. In the distance, a road, faint, abandoned. Old wagon marks barely visible between clumps of wild grass and thorn. Eseni stopped. The girl joined her, both standing at the edge of something unnamed. "What's that way?" the girl asked. Eseni shrugged. "Another town, maybe." "And the other?" "Border. Mountains." They stood in the silence. The girl looked down the road to the town. She could go, disappear again, change her name a second time, live among people who didn't know the shape of what she had lost. But her feet didn't move. She turned to Eseni. "What would you choose?" she asked. Eseni didn't answer. Instead, she sat on the ground, pulled the oilskin letter from her shirt one final time, and read it. This time aloud, but softly, like prayer or memory. The girl listened. When Eseni finished, she folded it once, then again, until it was no bigger than a seed. She didn't bury it. She didn't burn it. She placed it inside the comb bundle, beside the cloth, then closed the basket. She stood. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Not a promise, not a pact, just knowing. They turned east, toward the light. They walked for hours. The sun climbed, slow and warm, not cruel this time. The road disappeared beneath their steps. No destination, only direction. At one point, Eseni stopped. She reached down, picked up a small object from the dirt. A carved piece of bone, smoothed by time, cracked at one end. She handed it to the girl. No words. The girl studied it, then tucked it inside her shirt. A small weight, a reminder. Later, they passed an old tree bent sideways by years of wind. Its bark peeled in strips, its roots exposed. But it stood. Eseni paused beside it, ran her hand gently along the grain, then moved on. The girl followed. Neither looked back. By nightfall, they stopped near a rise of rock shaped like a wave, frozen mid-crash. There, they laid down the blanket, shared the last of the maize, rested. Above them, the stars returned, no longer cold, but distant companions. The girl rolled onto her side, facing Eseni. "What now?" Eseni's answer came slow. "Now we walk until the road becomes sky." The girl nodded, closed her eyes. In her sleep, she didn't see her sister. She saw a comb resting in sand, a letter folded inside a hand, and two figures walking toward sunrise side by side.